Well, it's been a while, hasn't it? Alright. Let's get down to business. So, um back to where we were prior. This is mm, I'm actually can't remember when the last update was on the project. But simply put, a lot has happened. Now, a lot of these now, if you're wondering why there's suddenly a background, why my box has been replaced by a ship, it's all Udemy assets. I'll admit, not all of these are mine. I mean, I've taken steps to make sure that more assets are mine. For example, these reload indicators or ammo empty indicators are all made by me. These weapon indicators are all me. Now, allow me to just give me a moment. I'm going to just quickly change change these into sprites so that I can start utilizing them as in-game assets. So, all right, apply, and there. So these will be the next weapon I'll be working on, but let's just get started with the base with just bare bones basics. So you notice that these indicators, that I have these indicators here, and I don't have the enemies anymore. Instead, I just have these this static target. Now, don't worry, there are still enemies in the game, and as for why you can't see the static target, I actually don't know. Unity is just seems to be giving me some kind of trouble, some kind of problem. I'm not too sure. No, it's not. Okay. At first, I thought the background, but yes, this is majority Unity as these two, the ship sprite and the background image here is Udemy assets. This black ball over here is actually the practice vortex. It's been here for a long time, but that's because I have created a means to add new weapons as upgrades. I'll need to go back into the 2D into the 2D view so I can actually show them. But let's just start with the basics. The first now I will not actually go too deep into code talk. It's pretty because honestly I've made a lot of progress. And to go through the code talk of every individual weapon would take a long time. But simply put, it is still more or less the same game. Something I added were these empty ammunition indicators. They are programmed to so if you notice in the game view, these assets are always there. That's because when the game starts, their image size is actually set to 0 on all vectors. The reason for 0 on all vectors, yeah. The reason for that is obviously I tried to make a program that would instantiate 1 once you ran out of ammo. The problem is once the requirement is fulfilled to instantiate, it's just going to keep instantiating new objects. I thought it would be much easier if the object was always there, but it would just minimized to the point where it may as well not even exist, where you can't even see it. The next thing I did, because it's different from pressing a button, because pressing a button it only reads the frame when you press the button, and then it runs the code. Or you need to have a function where it runs the code, and then it essentially closes the door on the way out. Now that's a lot of complications that I don't really care for. Well, okay. Anyway, you will not see too much of the enemy AI because I really haven't I really haven't done anything. A lot of this was weapon work. Let me just open up a lot of let me open my script now. An important thing to note is that this no ammo indicator, it works for both the machine gun and the missiles. That's because if you followed all my previous update report progress reports, you'll know that the machine gun and missiles are actually hard programmed onto the player model itself. That actually violates one of the rules of game code, which is what's called the one responsibility rule, where essentially, if you have a function, you make a script specifically for that one function. You don't try to make the script do too many things at once, or else you just get lost in an endless amount of script. So the player is actually now made up of multiple parts. You have the player itself, which is where the movement, the machine gun, and the missile script. Well, yeah, which it's all one script. The player script helped everything. Then you have the ammo callouts, which admittedly the ammo callouts are dictated by the player script now. I know I'm kind of but I consider the machine guns and all of that. If it's going to, it's to reduce what do I call it? It's to reduce get component. You don't want to have too many things that just grab too much component, because apparently it's too heavy, but I don't know. You want to reduce it as much as you want, as much as you can, pretty much. And then we have upgrade container right and upgrade container up. And this is actually the big thing that I wanted to implement, because the thing is, I always wanted to have a game with multiple different types of weapons. I like playing FPSs, so having a broad selection of weapons is actually something that really gets me interested. So I have several. So let me just introduce you to my first. Actually, no, this isn't even my first weapon. My first new weapon is something called the Vortex Missile, the V Missile. So let me just put it in here, and I will demonstrate it. So when you pick up the V Missile, it will instantiate the V Missile launcher. So there's the pickup, and then there's the launcher. So the missile will instantiate the launcher and immediately parent it onto the player's upgrade container. The player's upgrade container right child object. And essentially what you do is, what I did was I took the machine gun portion of the script and modified it. So that I gave it only one round, and it will only instantiate the V Missile, the V Missile Prefab, which is this. What does the V Missile do? This is actually based on an older game I used to play, which was called Heli Attack. In Heli Attack, there was this very powerful weapon called the Drunken Launcher. It fired multiple missiles, and the problem was that they were drunken. So they would often swerve, and they would change direction on a whim. This is that. As you can see, the V missile is on a timer, and then it will, when it contacts the target, it will expand, and this will do damage over time. I wish I could actually show, because I need to find where this capsule is. Okay. So the V missile itself also has a reload, but it essentially has one shot. So let me just get close enough. And as you can see here, once it starts enveloping, this is what's called an on-trigger stay, which will detect every frame, the vortex or void. The game object is called a vortex. So essentially, once it hits the object, it will start dealing damage over time based on the vortex's damage value, which is 2. Sorry. There's also a little bit because this is essentially getting component every frame. Now, obviously, we don't want to do that. We want to actually minimize it based on seconds. there was a lot of workaround that I wanted to do. For example, I wanted it to have an on trigger enter, which would trigger an in which would trigger an on script damage over time value. Problem is I had no way to turn it off. A lot of the recommendations were a lot more complicated than just an on trigger stay. So in order to prevent that, I need to find the other script. Actually, no, I can just grab the Vortex script and show you. So essentially, what's happening is that it's all on a time system. So it's time.time damage timeout. So essentially, what that means is that every time it does damage, it's going to take a timeout. It's going to take a small timeout based on time.time, and then it's going to recheck. So it's essentially creating a delay between. It creates a delay between checks. All right. So that's the V missile. So this was the next part of what makes this weapon system so cool, is that I can introduce a new weapon, and this falls onto the upgrade container right section, because this galaxy shooter is the thing about this galaxy shooter, and the reason why the ammo indicators are arrow keys is that you control the ship with the WASD keys, and you control the weapons with the arrow keys. Machine gun is left. Missiles are down. Then we have upgrade container. Whatever weapon that falls in upgrade container right is your arrow key right. And then you have a fourth weapon, which is arrow key up. So, the next thing I had to do was to make sure that I created a system that would either A, instantiate itself upon the player character, or essentially create an upgrade that would destroy the previous upgrade. The idea is that you only have one upgrade. So I'll just show you. So L cannon, so the laser cannon, it falls within is an upgrade container right weapon. It's a right arrow key weapon. When I fly into this, it's going to destroy the V missile launcher and replace it with a laser cannon. And there it is. So the laser cannon is pretty simple, but it also came with its own design quirks. And let me just grab the capsule again so you can see its damage. It's at 6,684. Obviously, we're playing with a lot of high damaging weapons here, so I needed to check. I need to create essentially a practice dummy with a lot of damage. And that's it. That's the laser cannon. And wait a moment. Did it actually do anything? Yep, it did. Yeah. So the laser cannon is again, the basic idea is that the reason why machine guns falls on arrow key left is because when you reach for the arrow keys, the arrow key left, your index finger naturally falls on arrow key left. Everything else is dictated based on these finger placements. For example, your middle finger falls on the up and down arrow keys. So that means that they are the secondary weapons. I also changed the missiles, and the reason I changed the missiles was that I noticed that they were going a bit too fast. The problem is that on a frame-by-frame basis, you see this in a lot of frame glitches issues. That's why sometimes in games you get stuck in things. The way it is that it's much like an animation reel. If your character goes so fast that on one frame he's on one side of the object and the next frame he's on the other side of the object, he pretty much clears the object completely. So that was what my missiles were doing, because they were going so fast. There would be on one frame it'd be on one side of the enemy, and then on the other frame it would just fly straight past. It doesn't make sense, but that's how it is. There are ways to sidetrack this, but it requires messing around with raycast, which I unfortunately haven't learned yet. Yeah, I know. I'm still working on this, mate. So essentially now we have two different weapons. I can give myself a Vortex Missile, which does more damage, or a laser cannon, which a laser cannon which does less damage, but it's more controllable. It's more accurate. And these are both one-shot weapons. The idea is that you aren't supposed to use them too much. They have a long reload between shots. Finally, is your last class of weapons. This is your up weapons. So let me give myself a shotgun here and show you. And this is entering my upgrade container up weapon. And it is a shotgun, just like how it is. It has a randomized spread. And an interesting thing about the shotgun, you know how in a lot of FPSs you reload your shotgun bullet by bullet? It is essentially the same here. If you look at the ammo current count, it has a very short reload, but it reloads one shot per per reload. Now, this could be phased out, or I can simply reduce the reload time so that to make it more functional. But just the fact that it works, I can do small tweaks to make the weapon more functional if I feel like it's lacking. But there's another thing about this shotgun that honestly just makes me really happy. It's kind of like my original problem with the machine gun, is that the spread is on the bullet itself. Oh shoot. Sorry. Where's the shotgun? Where's my shotgun? Yeah, so let's just grab this, and I'll show you what exactly the instantiation script looks like. So the idea is that instead of a quaternion identity, I use a quaternion Euler, and essentially I found out that this is the one. This random range is the one that actually that will help get the spread I want. So essentially, the bullets are now instantiated with a different angle. So that's how the new shotgun spread works. That means the accuracy value is an actual tweakable value on the gun itself rather than on the bullet. And I think that and that is exactly what I want. So, last weapon, and this is the one I worked on last week. Yes, even though I don't have progress reports, I still do work. But an important thing I want to know is that each of these weapons, they actually have their own hitboxes. The reason for this is because the pickups are programmed to the programs are designed so that if they hit the current weapon's hitbox, they will destroy that weapon. That means if I were to introduce a laser cannon, okay, you know what? I'll do it right now. If I were to put this plasma gun right here, the second the plasma gun hits the shotgun weapon tag, a weapon tagged as weapon up. So so the shotgun is tagged as weapon up. This plasma gun upgrade is also weapon up. The second this plasma gun pickup hits the shotgun's box collider and detects that the tag is weapon up, it will destroy the shotgun and replace it and instantiate a shotgun to the upgrade container up child object. So this is how it works. And just like that, I no longer have a shotgun, I have a plasma gun. This one is honestly one of my favorites. Admittedly, it was a lot more complicated, but that was honestly because my brain was kind of just running all over the place at the time. You know, when you got so many things to do, you kind of just rush it in and you kind of lose track. But you notice there's actually multiple different game objects here in here, and that's because they are all linked to the plasma gun. That's how complicated this thing is. Despite not being a very powerful, or at least it shouldn't be that powerful a weapon. It's kind of powerful, but so the thing is that it instantiates depending on its plasma stage, which goes from 1 to 3, and the plasma stage increases based on the plasma charge, which increases based on how long you hold the up button. The way the plasma gun is programmed is that it's actually programmed to fire when you let go of the up button. So if I were to just press the button like this, it will only fire a green plasma bolt when I release the button. So if you want to rapid fire this thing, you want to just tap it. Now, obviously this thing only has 10 shots. Let me just reload it. Same function. And just like that, yeah, I love the new ammo indicators. I had to go back and essentially add the script for ammo indicators on every weapon. But as you can see here, if you look at the plasma charge, it will go up, and once it breaches the 100 threshold, it will, as you can see, this is what's called the low threshold. So once plasma charge goes above 100, it will fire a mid plasma bolt. A mid plasma bolt will then emit a mid plasma explosion, which is also a blue. As you can see, the script for an explosion is just like the same script for the void, but slower, and also it doesn't do damage over time. It is an on-trigger enter rather than on-trigger stay, which means it only detects when an object gets hit by it, rather than continuously check if the object is still in it. So let's show you how this thing works. You've already seen. Now, yeah, so you can see the green plasma bolts, and yeah, you can see the green plasma bolts. They are actually programmed to have a pretty short range, so it's to kind of encourage. And yeah, the blue plasma bolts don't. The only thing that has full range is actually a fully charged plasma bolt, which is this. And yeah, it also the fully charged plasma bolt also has the biggest explosion. So, and on top of that, not only does the plasma bolt itself do damage, the explosion does damage. This essentially has a built-in direct hit mechanic, where if you get hit by the plasma bolt, you're getting hit with both the damage of the plasma bolt and the plasma bolt and the plasma explosion, which means you essentially take damage twice, which more or less calculates to 200% to double damage. Now, admittedly, it's highly unlikely anyone gets caught in the green plasma bolt explosion because it's so fucking small. But yeah. Wait a moment. Okay, I just need to double check. Okay. As you can see, ammo current is -2. This means I gotta fix something. So I'm just gonna grab my plasma gun. Don't worry, this is just gonna be a quick tweak, because I think I know what happened. I forgot to add a function which says long ends. Oh yeah, this is actually something else I changed, the reload ready function. So the idea, I noticed that when you were reloading, because reloading, the way the reload function works is that in order to reload, since you have 4 weapons, is that you hold down the R button and then press the weapon key that's assigned to the weapon. So if you hold R and press weapon L and press the left direction key, you will reload your machine gun. The problem with that is that if you had ammunition, you would essentially just fire off one last volley before you reloaded. This is what I did to change that. Essentially, when you hold down R, it will disable your fire function. So right now, I just need to and to add a final little piece. Current ammo current is higher than 0. And that will create, essentially just writing that, it will essentially say, we don't want to fire if your ammo is... Actually, no, I think I gotta make it less than 1. Yeah, essentially this program will just say we don't want to let the player to fire when you don't have any ammo. That's pretty much all it is. So yeah, that is progress report, and I will get right back to it, and I'll just show you what the recent... I showed you a little idea as to what I'm working on. In every shoot 'em up, you usually have the same kind of... You usually have something that's almost a must-have, and this is it. Option fighters. So yeah, a lot of shoot 'em ups, they have this thing called options, and they are essentially these mini fighters that will fly next to the player. This is going to be the third upgrade container right weapon. Your third right weapon, or arrow key right weapon. Whatever. Now, obviously, the option fighters. So I created 2 sprites. One which is with the upgrade sprite and the actual weapon sprite itself. So hopefully, once that, I will be able... It will instantiate 2 of these, and yeah, we'll get right onto that. I'll see you all later. Bye.